Strength, skill, and athletic success can quickly take a back seat to beauty and body image. Male athletes are spoken of in terms of their accomplishments: medals won, records broken, and their strength and skill. Female athletes have struggled, not just to be recognized, but to have the opportunity to compete. At the first modern Olympic Games in 1896, no women competed. The founder of the International Olympic Committee said their inclusion would be, and I quote, impractical, uninteresting, unaesthetic, and incorrect. And it wasn't until 2012 that both men and women competed in all Olympic sports. Hi, I'm Candice Kay-Gibb. As a mom of young active girls, it definitely worries me that they'll be judged on their appearance long before their strength and their skills. As a former fitness model, I know firsthand the good and the bad when it comes to celebrating women in sport. I've actually spent some time with some great Canadian legends and some Olympic hopefuls, and it's actually given me hope that the sweat equity they've put into their sport is a sign of great things to come. It is the wrestling house.
Okay, so there's 7 wrestlers in the house. One of them being myself. I've won nationals 6 times, and 6-time most outstanding wrestler at nationals.
Senior national bronze medalist.
I'm a multiple-time national medalist and CIS medalist.
I'm junior senior national champ last year. I won the CIS national championship last year.
This is a house I don't think a robber would want to come in. They'd be messing with the wrong crew.
So it's nice because there's 7 of us in the house. So we wake up in the morning, we go train, and then we come back here and have the day off. And then we have practice in the evening. So during the day, we like to balance out our life. We don't just want to be strictly do wrestling. So we do things like fishing, go play other sports, like just play soccer or play basketball. Just different things to keep it fresh.
So what's it like being a female in a house of guys?
It's not bad. It's really nice actually because I can be like, guys, do your dishes, like seriously, and they're not gonna be offended and be like, oh, well, that was mean to say. They're just gonna be like, all right, I'll do my dishes.
So what's it like living with girls?
It's great. I mean, these girls are definitely a different breed. They're super competitive. We're fighting there in the room with them every day. So, I have a lot of respect for these girls.
They know I have a busy schedule, and I know they have busy schedules, so we all respect each other in that way. So we wake up in the morning, and I kind of have to go to the workouts because 6 of my other roommates are gonna go, and I can't slack off and just not go. So it's nice to have them for supporting me in that way. And I feel like that's the difference because it's super easy to just be like, oh, I don't want to do anything today, watch Netflix. But if you have 7 other people in your house and they're gonna motivate you in that way, you can't just skip practice.
Yeah, no, I guess you don't have that option.
Yeah.
I love that these young wrestlers live together not just as men and women, but actually as teammates and equals. Who are some of the major influencers that you've had in your wrestling career?
So Tonya has been a huge inspiration in my life, and I really do look up to her still. Like when I was younger, I even wrote a biography about her in school. And then I was lucky enough to make the national team when I was younger as a cadet. And I got to work with her as a coach, and I was her athlete. I know that she started very late because women's wrestling wasn't a sport. So she started I believe when she was in high school or into university age. When I started in grade 6. So I started at a very young age, and I had the opportunity to wrestle guys right off the bat. And obviously there are some biological differences between females and males. So I get to go against the hardest guys in the room, and that's no problem. I can also wrestle against girls, so I don't think that Tonya necessarily had that, nor did she have the experience from a young age high level. So it was super cool because I go from like having this star celebrity in my mind to meeting her, getting to know her on a personal level, getting to know her as a coach, working with her, and now I moved to Brock University and she's in a room every single day and I get to work with her on a daily basis.
Tonya Verbeek is officially the most decorated Canadian wrestler of all time. She's a 3-time Olympian and she's the first female international coach for Wrestling Canada. Tonya's been one of the pioneers of Canadian women's wrestling since she first hit the mats in high school.
Hey, Tonya.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Been a long time since we've been here together.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
This is where all the magic happened in this gym. There was definitely an interest that girls wanted to start wrestling. And, you know, I was a young coach and I just thought it was a great opportunity. And a young lady came into my office in the phys ed office and said, "Can I wrestle?" And I had to think, but I thought I couldn't see any reason why not.
I was begging my coach, Dave Colley, to let me compete after 2 weeks, and he didn't. He actually had the girls stay back. He said, "No, we need 1 more month for you guys to practice. It's so brand new to you." And it was a Friday morning, and our practices were like at 8 o'clock or something, and the boys were leaving with the coach to go to the tournament. And I showed up with all my gear, and I was like, "Can I come?" He said, "No, I already told you, you girls can't come this time." I'm like, come on. My parents said it was okay, call them. And so they brought me, just myself and the boys, and I ended up winning my first tournament. Broke a girl's wrist, which rarely has not really happened after that, after 20 years of wrestling, but you know, I was just told exactly what to do, and I went after it, you know, and that's what I did. And so from there on in, it was like something I knew that I really wanted to be involved in.
The balance that she represents of how she does and goes about her work and how good she is as a coach, really to me doesn't matter whether she's a male or a female. She's Tonya Verbeek, and I think that's how athletes look at her too. There is no divide. They don't split the room in wrestling. It's you are all in.
Like, he never treated us girls any different than the boys, you know, like we were expected to do the same workouts, the same conditioning program. You know, I had the opportunity to wrestle with the boys, and you didn't make like any sort of, you know, deal about that. That was just, you know, the team was the team, and that's what kept me going in the sport, you know, right from the start, just wanting to learn it more and more, you know, and you gave me that opportunity, so.
Yeah. My coach actually drove me up to Brock to train, and I got to train with Marty, as he was an athlete then, and it was just a whole different intensity, you know, just a whole different eye-opener of like what this sport is.
We don't treat anybody different in our program. Women, men, the same training program. At one point, I remember we were coaching, this is probably 10 years ago, and we'd start at the beginning of the year, we'd be outside and we'd go for a run. The girls did a shorter run than the guys. I think back and I'm like, man, if we did that, like today, the girls would lose their minds. The expectations are straight across the board, and good for us, right? Good for society to be able to change. They've adjusted big time and shown themselves and us that they can do whatever's come their way, right? So it's like
They've adjusted or you've adjusted?
Well, I've had to adjust as they've adjusted. They, you know, like they taught me a lesson, I guess.
Yeah.
Showed, you know, like I was cheating them, I guess, but I didn't expect that they could do that.
My daughter, she grounds me.
Yeah.
She comes to every single practice, so yeah. She does like the warm-ups with the team. I really wanted to do it because I know all the, I don't know, just the cool life experiences that you get and how much of a character builder it is and stuff, but I don't want to push her too much that she kind of like rebels, so I'm in that juggling stage right now.
My dad, like, as supportive as he was, there was always that like girl-boy factor. Like that, well, you're a girl. You can't do this. And so I was quite rebellious at that time. Like, I had a lot of vent up anger in a sense, you know, like frustration, I guess is a better way to put it, is like growing up and having a strict upbringing. Sports in general was my outlet, 100%. And so wrestling was just kind of really gave me that opportunity to be me.
We are here at the 2018 Junior Senior Canadian National Championships here in Montreal. Wrestling yourself for how long?
Wrestling since not to date myself, but I started in the 80s. There were a few females that wanted to compete. They were very tough, but they had no choice but to compete with the boys. And there was only one or two of them, so few girls in the late 80s came, but it wasn't really fair.
It would be 20 years until a Canadian woman won gold at the Olympics. That woman was Carol Wynn at the 2008 Beijing Games.
When I would tell people that I wrestle, everyone would be really surprised because they expect a wrestler to be some big, muscle-bound person. I always had fun trying to explain that there's actually, amateur wrestling and there's weight classes. And one of the great things about wrestling actually is that you can have so many different people with different body types. Being able to figure out how to beat somebody using just you, I think it's my favorite part of wrestling. We really had to work as hard and harder than the men to try to prove that we belong there and that we belong to have a space on the mat. The equity piece has come a long way. Back in 2013, wrestling was actually kicked out of the Olympic program.
Canadian wrestlers have a new problem to grapple with. The International Olympic Committee is recommending their sport be dropped.
3 events made final presentations to the International Olympic Committee, all fighting for one spot.
When I started wrestling, women's wrestling wasn't in the Olympics yet. The first time women's wrestling was at the Olympics was 2004. So I think the thing is now that people have that expectation, people might see it in a different way if it gets taken away rather than, when I started, I just loved the sport and I wanted to compete and I wanted to be the best that I could be. And there wasn't really that huge Olympic goal, on the horizon. I just, wanted to be great at it.
Wrestling has held its place for more than 100 years in the modern games until last February. The IOC Executive Board then voted to remove wrestling. The sport criticized as outdated, mismanaged, its results not easily understood. For the 7 months that followed, wrestling officials scrambled to reinvent the sport, creating more opportunities for women and changing the rules to make it less technical and more aggressive.
One of the redesigns for our singlets was a sports bra and short shorts, and that was crazy because I was like, whoa, we just did all this stuff for gender equality, and then your solution for making us more spectator friendly is putting us in sports bras and short shorts, and it's like, that would be insane.
Low television ratings, ticket sales, and global interest are some of the reasons behind the IOC's decision. Wrestling Canada is not going down without a fight. In a statement, it expressed surprise and vowed action, saying, "We have a strong international federation and we will work closely with them as called upon to lobby and appeal to the IOC members to reverse this decision."
A jubilant response in Buenos Aires as the IOC reinstates wrestling for the 2020 Games.
49 votes, wrestling has been elected for the 2020.
They had this award. For the men, it was awarded to the best wrestler. For the women, it was for the prettiest wrestler. Yeah.
That's not, and that was
in early 2000, 2001, 2002.
That's not that long ago, right? Yeah.
We thought that if any one of us was awarded that, we would refuse it. It's just not.
That doesn't really represent the sport.
No, we're there as athletes. Our international federation has done a lot to improve women's equity in wrestling, because that was one of the big things that was that the International Olympic Committee was kind of harping on wrestling.
I've wrestled lots of men in Canada that say things like, "You're actually pretty good," after I qualified for the Olympics, and just things like that where they don't understand that you would be technically good and a female. In the States, they have women coaching women's teams in college and men coaching men's teams in college. The teams are separated. I think that women and male athletes are very different. And in other sports, they're seen that way. Like in soccer, they would never train together. And I don't think that we should train completely segregated, but it would be nice to walk into a training room and not feel like I had to be tough as nails regardless of the time of month, or that you can't talk about the time of month, or the fact that you're a female. I think that in 10 years, I would love if that happened.
I really like the shift in mentality over the years, because I remember when females first started wrestling, that stigma still existed. The ultimate shame to lose to a girl. Oh, fight like a girl. But that's gone out the window because there's depth in female wrestling, and the younger girls, before the testosterone levels really increase in teenage boys, when they're 10, 11, 12, and 13, girls beat boys all the time.
I beat up my brother all the time. He's like 6'4" now, but
yeah. So in the beginning, there were tears of shame and, oh, how could you let that happen? Now, you lost because she's good, and they accept it and walk away. So it's great to see, yeah.
I have gotten grief from parents who are invested in their men and say we shouldn't train with the women, it brings us down, and that's why maybe the men's program is not where it should be in Canada. And and you think about it, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna take in what he's saying or she's saying and analyze it and see if that's true or not, and then make change. But I don't think it's any different. I think it's been a real positive for both. And the fact that the women have really stepped it up, and we have our guys wrestling girls, and some of our girls beat our guys. And it's not like, oh, you got taken down by a girl. No, you got taken down by that beast. That's what you got taken down by. It's not a girl, she's a wrestler.
Wiebe is the reigning Olympic champion, having won gold at the 2016 Summer Olympics. She's the second Canadian woman to win gold at the Olympics after Carol Wynn, and she's the current Commonwealth Games champion. I'm here in Calgary. We're about to talk with the current Olympic champion, Wiebe.
I fell in love with wrestling, honestly, like the instant I stepped on the mats for the first time. I remember there was a sign posted outside my gymnasium door in grade 9, and it said, co-ed wrestling practice. And I thought, as a little grade 9 girl who was pretty athletic and adventurous, that co-ed wrestling practice would be a great opportunity to wear spandex and wrestle with boys. And I remember that first practice. We were having fun, it was new and it was exciting. And as I slowly was introduced to the sport, it's so technical, it's so tactical, it's so mental, and everything is out there on you on the mat. I think in some ways that the women in the sport of wrestling, there's so many opportunities for us, but at the same time, we've kind of had to fight against stereotypes, against different challenges within the room. And so I think in some ways we just have this mentality that everything we've had to earn. Nothing's been given to us. And so I think that kind of ferocity translates onto the mat, and that's why I think the Canadian women's wrestling team is so dominant. And so I think, we're always going to have it a good go no matter who we compete against in the world.
You have to respect the opposite gender and everything, right? So it's not just wrestling. I feel like if you don't support women wrestling, then you don't support women in general, right? You don't support women in life then.
People tend to sexualize the sport when they don't understand the sport. They're like, how can you stand wrestling someone like that and touching them in that way? But anyone who has wrestled are that's not even a thought.
Yeah.
And when people are like, how do guys wrestle girls? That's just such an awkward situation. But the word awkward does not describe it, because you just don't know. It's the same as wrestling a girl and wrestling a guy.
It's a physical and sometimes violent sport. And I think even in Western society, there's still a lot of questions around, is that what women want to do? Why are they engaging in that? I still face that on the regular. Oh, you wrestle? You don't look like a wrestler. And so I think, that's my goal, is to continue to challenge those dominant ideologies. You can wrestle and you can be a woman, and those things don't have to be separated. I think the aesthetic of women's wrestling has changed. I think, we are fierce and we are dominating in our physical bodies, but we're also not scared to with our identity as a female. We're not scared to wear pink wrestling boots or braid our hair. I think we can negotiate these two identities as women and also as wrestlers, and they don't have to be separated, and we don't have to change who we are. I'm a pretty feminine, outgoing, positive person. But when I get on the wrestling mat, it's game time. I'm focused, I'm determined, and I'm gonna kick your ass. But at the end of the day, you shake hands at the beginning of the match, you shake hands at the end of the match, and wrestling embodies the values of fair play, of excellence, of pushing one another to the best of their abilities. I love seeing two wrestlers at the end of a match laying on the ground exhausted and turning over and shaking each other's hand, because there's no hiding when you get on the wrestling mat. It's just one person against another. I love hearing about my friends and competitors around the world that are starting wrestling programs for youth in the slums of favelas in Rio de Janeiro, that are challenging hierarchical organizations in Japan, that are, having babies and still competing at elite level in Sweden. I think, I hear these stories of my friends from around the world, and I'm inspired. And so, I actually just really appreciate that you guys are doing this documentary to share these stories and to share, I think, the power that is the sport of wrestling. There's so many faceless female wrestlers out there that grinded against all odds, against pretty much the hopes of every other male teammate in the room, that they went in there and they did it anyways. I don't even know why, because wrestling's really hard. It's hard enough physically when everyone wants you to succeed, but when nobody wants you to succeed, to do it anyways, kudos to those women. We've come a long way to making wrestling in Canada an equitable sport culture. When I think about the fighting opportunities that I was given, when I think about just the inclusion and, again, opportunities that I had as a young female wrestler, it was never once questioned that I could attend a practice. I was also incredibly lucky that my first ever wrestling coach was a female, and so that, again, helped me to never once question, this crazy sport that I fell in love with. I would define, equity and equality in a sporting context in the sense of equality is telling everybody that the race starts at 1 p.m., be there. Whereas equity is making sure that everybody gets to the starting line and is ready to run their best race. And so when I think about equitable practices and sport culture in Canada, I think it's getting better. I think we're moving slowly towards progress, but I think we can never stop, because I think the terrain is constantly changing. I think, the pressures on young boys and young girls are different, and, we need to address that constantly, relentlessly, just like you do at a wrestling match.